How's it going? I'm Marlene. Thanks for wandering by. Welcome or welcome back to Decan Walk 2023. For those of you that may have just stumbled upon this video and have no idea what I'm talking about, briefly, we are taking a Decan Walk, which means we are walking through the zodiacal wheel of the year. And we are taking a look at each zodiac sign that is broken into 3 different decans. Each decan is roughly 10 degrees or spans across 10 days during the year. And we are in particular looking at the tarot correspondences that have been aligned with each of the decan according to the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn. So that's just in brief. And we're turning over a new decan day and a new sign, new season with a zodiac sign today. But if you want to follow along and find out more about what this means, you can go to, I'm going to put a link in the cards to my introduction of the Decan Walk. Also, just want to remind you that you can start this Decan Walk anytime throughout the year. So if you've missed my previous videos on previous decans, don't worry, jump in anytime. A couple more disclaimers. I'm not an astrologer, and honestly, this is my learning journey that I'm sharing with you. We are, so if you want to keep up with me and find out and follow me as we travel through the zodiacal year and tarot correspondences to the decans, please consider subscribing so that you can get updates on when I post these videos or community posts for this practice. We have also been kindly invited and have begun a community discussion around the Decan Walk 2023 over at a Facebook group run by my buddy Don Michelle called Boho Tarot Facebook group. So if you want to join us in discussion there as well. Alrighty, so now with all that having been said, let's get into the new decan. Today, I'm very excited to, and kind of nervous, to enter Gemini season. And I have so much that I want to tell you, so I hope that I can ramble about in a clear and in a clear and succinct way for you to understand. But I'm very excited about Gemini season in particular because I'm a Gemini and we are actually entering my birthday decan. So my birthday falls within this particular decan. So let's talk about what it is. Currently, we are now have entered Gemini 1, which is Jupiter in Gemini. Let's take a look at the tarot card that this corresponds to. So first I'm going to show you cards from the Divine Decan Tarot, which was kindly sent to me by Reese Marin. I have a link for where you can find this deck down below because it is super handy for this Decan Walk because it shows us the all the information that we need to know about the astrology directly on the card. So the Decan card for Jupiter and Gemini in the tarot is the 8 of Swords. And so here we have in the Divine Decan Tarot, it has the Waite Smith image of the 8 of Swords. And then it tells us Jupiter and Gemini, which is mutable air. Okay, and so it is Decan 1 of Gemini. So the Swords is an air sign, and mutable means for a zodiac sign is that it is that last month of a season where we're transitioning from one season to the next. So currently in May, now here at the end of May, we are, and into June, we're moving from the spring season into the summer. So Gemini season is mutable. So it's not quite spring, not quite summer. It's like that transition period in between the two. So that's what mutable means, for those of you who may not know. So we have the Eight of Swords, and we have the key word or title, the Hermetic title is interference. That's on Crowley's deck, the Thoth deck as well. So with every Decan card, we have a planet and a sign. And these two are represented and have associations with major cards in the tarot. So now we have Jupiter, and Jupiter corresponds to the Wheel of Fortune. And Gemini corresponds to the Lover's card. So here's what everything looks like in your Waite Smith. Most of you are probably familiar with these images. So we have the Wheel of Fortune and the Lovers. And with that, that's where we get our Eight of Swords. Let me show you in a couple of different decks, and then I'll walk you through like my way I, piece this together. So here is what it looks like in the Thoth Tarot. So we have our Eight of Swords, which is interference. And then we have our Wheel of Fortune, or Fortune, as the title is on the Thoth. And then this is what the Lover's card is like my favorite card in the Thoth deck. So we have the Lovers. I do see, I like to talk about the colors because in the Thoth deck, you can see where the colors of the two majors kind of merged into the minor card, which I think is really, really interesting. And then I wanted to show you just one more deck because I recently got this, and this is the 8th House Tarot. And it's an astrological tarot deck. And I just thought it was really cool because it has the Decan correspondences on the top as well. So this is the Eight of Air, Eight of Swords, Jupiter and Gemini. And then we have the Wheel of Fortune. So you can see it has Jupiter. I love this with the dice. And then over here we have the Lovers, which I thought was really, really cool with this like dualist perspective here, which is, we'll get into talking more about Gemini in just a minute. So those are the cards. Now let's talk about what the heck all this means and how I pieced it together. So the main book that most of us are using in order to walk through the decans is this one called 36 Secrets by Susan Chang. So I really wanted to investigate this decan, and I swear I honestly started feeling like this as I was reading up about it. And it makes so much sense because I'm a Gemini and this is my birth card. But it's really important to me to try to like understand it. So the chapter in the 36 Secrets for Gemini 1 is called Fate versus Free Will. And I almost wanted to entirely stop right there because it just like my mind just like, my mind did one of these, I guess, because I like follow me, because those two ideas of fate versus free will are diametrically opposed concepts. And that makes so much sense for a Gemini to get kind of like trapped in sussing out what those two things mean, because I kind of believe in both of them, that both of them exist. And it's like, what, how, let me talk to you about what Susan Chang says so we can kind of put this together. So Jupiter, the Wheel of Fortune, in this zodiac sign of Gemini, we've talked about like the dignities, and before, Jupiter is in detriment in Gemini. Okay, so it's not in a good place. In detriment means it's as far away from its like home base or comfort zone, as that's how I interpret it, as it possibly can be. So it's not a good thing, right? So Susan Chang says, Jupiter's dignity is impaired. He is in detriment in the Mercury ruled sign Gemini. So Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So let's take a look at the Lovers. The Lovers represents the moment when we are most free to choose. So a lot of folks use the keyword choice when we take a look at the Lovers card. Whether we're selecting a mate, a future, or simply our next action. Okay, so the Lovers represents, and here I'll grab from the Thoth Tarot too. I do think it means a choice. I also think it means duality of so many things, duality of self sometimes, but it also in the Thoth kind of makes us think of a marriage. It feels, very, very clearly feels like there's a ceremony, happening here, which is for me a marriage, a convergence, right? And because Gemini is an air sign, it feels like it's existing in the realm of the mind, right? And the intellect. So the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, so the Wheel of Fortune, on the other hand, endlessly spins out destinies, good lots and bad ones. But what it does not offer you is a choice. So it's like these two are completely, entirely opposite ideas. Fate, lack of control over your choices. You are on the wheel, you are spinning, good luck, bad luck. It's not up to you. You don't have control here. You're just hanging on. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. Whereas in the Lovers, it's about your free will, right? Fate, free will, your choice for anything, what you're going to be moving forward towards. And like I said, this feels like it's in the realm of the mind. So, in other words, the hand outstretched for blessings, this is from Susan Chang, right? So let me say that again. The Wheel of Fortune endlessly spins out destinies, good lots and bad ones, but what it does not offer you is choice. In other words, the hand outstretched for blessings cannot also grasp a sword. You can't do two things at once, right? Those two things at once. So what happens when fate runs into free will? And so what happens when fate runs into free will is we have the Eight of Swords. The two majors are struggling for supremacy in this domain. And I'm just reading the highlights of the things that Susan Chang said. It's more like choosing feels too dangerous, like throwing a stick into a spinning bicycle wheel, right? How do you prune infinity? How do you divide by zero is what Susan Chang says. And I feel like this is a mind, like a mental space that I often enter into because I have difficulty with absolutes. I don't believe that one thing, fate or free will, like that these are absolute truths that can exist on their own. Like I believe they exist together. And it's like, it's just like, it's a mind, mess. So something else here, let me find what Marcus Katz says so that I can kind of tell you where my mind then went with this. So in explaining the Eight of Swords, especially in the Thoth, because the word for the key word here is interference. And these two seem to make sense. The word interference seems to make sense with this depiction, right? Of Waite Smith as well, because it's like it's not like a blockage, rather it's like like a high like frequency. Like I think of like kind of like white noise or radio waves, like an interference, that is buzzing around you so that you can't decide, you can't make a decision, you can't pick one thing or the other. And so Marcus Katz says just that, that this is noise and not signal, an interference pattern arising from two thought processes. For me, it's like two ideas, two concepts that seem that like they don't align in any way. They seem diametrically opposed. At a deeper level, one might consider this card the inherent danger of choosing to adhere to one belief more than any other, no matter how good the belief might appear. I often find myself, and like part of my journey is that I've like, and I've shared that with on my channel before, that I am, I am Eight of Swords so much, but because I can never just like solidly say with absolute certainty that I believe in any one absolute. For me, the moment that I say that, there pops out the opposite of it, the diametrically opposed idea, right? And I am always somewhere here in the middle trying to make sense of how those two things that I think are both true can exist simultaneously in the world, a paradox, a duality, which is really the true nature of Gemini, duality. Last bit I'm going to read to you is from Gerd Ziegler. Oh, did I share with you that was Marcus Katz' Secrets of the Thoth Tarot? Volume 2 has the 2 through 10. So that's what I read to you before. And the Tarot Mirror of the Soul by Gerd Ziegler is another book that just like always makes sense. And I'm going to read to you, the where's my Eight of Swords? Yeah, the bit about the Eight of Swords here. So the key words are Jupiter and Gemini, obviously, problems with endurance, worry from thinking too much, difficulty in making a choice. It's funny, like I can read that to you, and do you picture this? Those of you that are more Waite Smith folks, but like you can see these are two swords. These two swords are the same, and then all of these swords are different and they're curved. They're curved and different in some way where you have these two swords in front. So 2 strong central swords are crossed by 6 crooked sabers. You find yourself having to choose between 2 alternatives of apparently equal merit. You will not come to a decision by reflecting analytically. Not in your mind, I guess. Your doubt or fears of making the wrong choice constantly destroy your inner clarity. You are also lacking endurance, which you will need if you are to clarify this confused situation. No matter where you turn, no satisfactory solution seems to exist. The more you try to unravel the tangled ball of yarn, the tighter the knots become. The tighter the knots become. So like, I can think of this in like in a grand philosophical way, right? Like we were talking about from Susan Chang, the idea of fate versus free will. But you can even think about it on a very mundane, everyday level of like, making choices. I mean, you could think of it as like your ideology, values, belief system, like, putting together these two giant ideas of fate and free will, duality, convergence, these types of ideas. And you can also like imagine it in a very mundane, everyday way in which you have to, you have to make choices or surrender to what is happening, and just let be what will be, right? Make choices or surrender to what will be. You can think of that on a grand scale or on a personal level. But so that's where I was with, and that's why for me, the depiction of the Eight of Swords as Jupiter and Gemini makes perfect sense. Like, I see what this decan is about. But I also got to thinking about Gemini, and I'm not, I've investigated most about the sign of Gemini because it's my sun sign. And I wanted to find out more, and I'll share with you all the links to the resources down below as well. But I also found a website or an article that someone wrote about Gemini and the three and the decans of Gemini. But something that stood out. So this is this is from an article. Oops, and I just have my iPad here with me. This is from an article. Oh my gosh, who is this? What are the decans? By Caitlin Mora. I'm going to, I'll leave the link below. But they talk about Gemini, and this stood out to me, and I wanted to share it with you because it kind of informs where I ended up with in my understanding of this decan and how I put together a spread for me, and for you. So, ruled by Mercury or Hermes, the messenger of the gods, the sign of Gemini is essentially about communication or the flow and exchange of information. So here, let's look at this one, Gemini. While the symbolism of the twins is often interpreted as being split in nature, it can also be interpreted as a link. I really like that. So like, it really feels like you're seeing, the link here, the marriage, the convergence. And I think you're seeing that here as well. There's a split, but it's both a split and a convergence and a link. So here's the part that I thought was really cool about Gemini now that we've been through, we've walked through Aries and we've walked through Taurus, and now we're in Gemini. So listen, while the previous signs of the zodiac, Aries and Taurus, are primarily rooted in the self. So you'll remember Aries is I am, the first sign, and Taurus is all about, is an earth sign. Anyway, Gemini, what Gemini does is Gemini brings the awareness of other people into being, the awareness of other. It is the last of the first quadrant signs. It's still focused on the self, but more in the form of what other people can teach them. Gemini is where the self starts to venture out in search of connection with others. Endlessly curious about our environment and the people who inhabit it, Gemini is where we start asking questions, looking for answers and information to explain the immediate world around us. Once knowledge is gained, it is then shared, providing others with a useful set of facts and ideas that can be used to navigate the world around them. So I got to thinking that so far in this exploration, so far a lot of what I do in my tarot practice, and so far what I've been doing in terms of this Decan Walk exploration in the spreads has been really rooted in self and about the self. And now we have the opportunity with Gemini to explore how we navigate things in relationship to self, but also in relationship to others, right? That split and that duality. All of that to say that what I did was this time I created a spread for us to be able to engage with these ideas and think about these things in a dualistic way in relationship to self and relationship to others. And so I'm going to leave a link to the PDF of the spread down below. I'll also post a picture of the spread in our Boho Tarot, in the Boho Tarot Facebook group for you to grab it there. And what we're going to do is we're going to have our three, our Decan card and the two associated majors are just going to hang out at the top, right? We'll have two columns, one column for the self and one column for others. So, and then we're going to pull cards for each of these four ideas. And the four ideas are fate, free will, duality, and convergence. And so we're going to pull cards for how do we engage with fate in relationship to self and in relationship to others. We're going to pull cards for how we engage with the idea of free will in relationship to self and relationship to others. We're going to pull cards for the how do I engage with the concept of duality in relationship to self and relationship to others. And finally, we'll pull cards about the idea of convergence, that link in relationship to self and relationship to others. Now you can use tarot and oracle. You can use one deck. You can use many decks. Do your thing. I think I might use a mixture of oracle and tarot. Perhaps I'm thinking of maybe using oracle for the self column and tarot for the others. But I don't know, I might change my mind. And I'll try to share my own reading with you in the Boho Tarot Facebook group as well. So, okay, so that's it. So, oh, also, I will be back. Okay, so I will be back because this video has gotten too long. I had thought about adding this at the end of this video, but stay tuned because this is a special decan for me because it's my birth decan. I'm also working on and have created a birthday decan spread. So I'll be back with that probably around my birthday, and I'll share that with all of you as well. Alrighty, so that's it. So look out for the spread for Gemini 1, which is going to be, oh, did I give you guys the dates? Yeah, sorry. Gemini 1 is from May 21st through May 31st, okay? And I'm going to give you the link to the PDF down below, and visit us at the Boho Tarot Facebook group for more community and discussion. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I hope that my mind that's like this is making sense to you. And I hope that you all have a beautiful, wonderful decan of Gemini 1. We're in for it for the next 3 decans. Gemini is a doozy. So I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope that you have a beautiful, wonderful decan of Gemini 1, and I hope that you all have a beautiful, wonderful day. Bye now.